Hey everyone, Mike from Morton Lights here, just doing my end of year 2023 behind the scenes video. This is part one of three, re-recorded again on the 3rd of January because a few people have asked some questions which I should have covered off in the first recording, so I'm going to do it a second time around. So this is my display, relatively straightforward. Candy canes on the front gates here. Had a QR code for Sydney Children's Hospital Foundation donation this year. Made a couple of $100, which is quite nice of people to donate. Arches, 90 nodes of strip in each of those with power injection running across the bottom, connecting front to back. The 48 node snowflakes here. These mini trees are new this year. 80 nodes in the tree for section and 20 in the star. That little bucket with holes down the bottom there is one of my speakers. I have a push to listen button which gets driven on the controller that's down below there. This is a dumb string peace sign, just basically the word peace, and the two doves are the two channels of it. And same lot continuing down. Christmas Eve, because I wasn't home for a couple of days with all the Christmas stuff on, I bolted this camera to the fence as well, which is recording just so I could sort of see if anybody was visiting the display, because my CCTV on the house doesn't cover past the front fence basically. So that's the front part of the display. Let's go around and have a look at some of the more interesting parts of it. So the candy cane here on this right hand gate, as you can see, is driven off a differential receiver which is mounted in this box here. This was a Digquad controller, but I changed it midway through the season due to some issues, just for a dumb receiver, because I also remembered that I had a spare output on my F16 that I could drive it from. So just a 350 watt power supply, 5 volt thing. All of my stuff here is 5 volt, barring 5 floodlights which are 12, and a HE123RX dumb receiver board driving out. Now I've started a little bit of pack down already, so as you can see things are disconnected. I'll just keep that locked up because I'm not taking it down today. A couple of XT60Hs for power injection should I need it, if I decide to repurpose it. So I had the cables for that running here, and then you can see the dirt there where I had the speed humps from the driveway. They were new this year, I didn't have that last year. So the two canes are on the one gate. They're currently just sitting here. These are the VVOR ones, they're about 1 meter wide, 3 of them. 3-pack costs $90, and thanks to Smart Alec Lights and Kate from the ACL forums who put me onto them. They were fantastic. And that's the cabling I had running across there. So it was a 240 volt run, a Ethernet, which then became a differential line, and a pixel line. Now the pixel line was actually coming back to this corner here. There was a mini tree, spiral mini tree in the corner here in front of this pillar. Moving along, let's just go back to the front of the yard first, and then we'll come back to the house. So everything else here is driven off a controller that sits in the front yard here, which is a HE123. As you can see, there's all these little white boxes down under the props. 2 down there, the other one down there, there's one under this mini tree. I run a 24 volt distribution system around, and these things drop them down to 5 volts for the props. So most of them have got 2 Anderson power pole connectors in and out. I like these plugs because they're electrically and physically hermaphroditic, so you can run them as in or out. You don't have to worry about which way. And then the XT60s as the 5 volt output on them. So there's a little 300 watt DC to DC converter in there, which can do a maximum of 20 amps. So it's 100 watt at 5 volt. Nice little things, and there's a little crowbar circuit that I made inside that monitors the output voltage, and if that goes over 5.6 volts it will basically short out the input, blow a fuse internally and prevent the pixels from receiving more than 5.6 volts. So these are my speakers. They are a J-Car outdoor speaker, but they're designed to be run under a patio or something like that, sort of a covered outdoor speaker. So I made up these things, an old chlorine bucket, drilled a bucket load of 20mm or 25mm holes in it, and just held down with a couple of bricks to stop it blowing away. They let the sound out all right, and to be honest, the bucket adds a little bit to the bottom end because it reverberates a bit inside. 5 10-watt floodlights, one there, and 3 more along there, which are both lighting up. All 5 of them are lighting up these 2 palm trees here. As you can see, they've all been wrapped in bunning strings, just 2-channel strings. Likewise, that one over there you can see in with the white strings. Actually, there's one thing I forgot to mention as well, is all of these hedges, you can see it in here, have got 2 sets, so there's 2 sets per sort of section of hedge, so 8 of those strings with 200 LEDs on them each, which just gives a nice glow for some effects. That all comes back here as well. So in this box here is a HE123. If I open it up, it's quite straightforward. 24-volt power supply in there, exhaust fan, HE123. Now there's no power coming off this board. I put all the power on at prop, so to prevent any cross prop power, I actually pull all the fuses out of them so they run without power. You'll notice that the power supply is off, but the controller is actually on. All of my controllers I do this with, you can see that Ethernet cable coming in there, got this black line coming out of it, which then goes across via, in this case, a buck converter into the thing. And if you look at the actual Ethernet plug, you'll notice that only the green and the yellow are wired in. I pull the blue and the brown out to run a passive PoE solution, and that all comes in over a proprietary connector that I've made for myself. There it is there, a little round connector, waterproof connector, so that I don't accidentally plug my power in. That way all my controllers are always powered up. I can go and administer them, make changes, do what I need to do, check statuses prior to having to power up the pixels, and all the pixels are powered separately. Also in here, it's a DMX, 5-pin DMX plug, but that does my push to listen. There's a basic MOSFET in there, and it takes a little GPIO signal to turn the light on and off. So that's driven by some effect sequences and a bit of software that I wrote, which is on GitHub. The button, you press the button, which is lit up when the sound's off. The code running on this Beagle will turn off that sequence, stop it from running. Go and turn the amplifier on, which is done through a CBus MQTT command. And then after 5 minutes, the button will start to blink, which is a effect sequence, and then moves to a different effect sequence, which is a fast blink, and then eventually it will turn off the amplifier and set the button on. In this control box here is a DMX 2-24 Hanson board. There's a little boost converter there, so that's upping the 24-volt input up to 31 volts. In here, that little board is an ESP32, which has got Wi-Fi. That's its antenna there stuck in the roof, and a little buck converter down to 5 volts. And that little thing with the green thing is a green screw jack, is a RS422 transceiver, so that's producing DMX. It's on an ES Pixel stick, produces the DMX, which drives this board. So that's the only Wi-Fi I have in my show, is to run that thing there, and that actually worked quite well. I was quite surprised about that performance of it. That was streaming E131, one universe worth, or only 24 channels in one universe worth across. Speakers, more DC to DC converters. That's the only 12-volt one there, which is made to run these 10-watt floods. So all of that comes back. and the cables run down the yard here into that shed. Now let's quickly share the back end of the shed. This weed has grown up really nicely to cover the cables. I'll need to get rid of it, but it's quite convenient. So everything runs in there, and the shed is, I showed that in the second part of the video, which I recorded the other day. That's the antenna for the transmitter. So that is literally a hole drilled into the colour bond. The transmitter's TNC poked through, the antenna screwed on, and then a bunch of silicon put around it. Works quite well. So I've got a bunch of networking and power and 24 volts and Ethernet and whatever running up there, and the speaker wires. Same coming out the front here. There's 240 volt feed to the other side of the house, some 24 volt lines and what have you. There's 240 volts to the mega tree. And then coming out of the roof of it is from the HE123D. So there's 4 differential lines and 2 24 volt lines going up onto the roof. This last one here is another 24 volt and another differential line. I took the Optus demarc point, stripped it out because Optus HFC doesn't exist anymore, and I've put a differential receiver inside that along with a DC to DC converter and a buck, seeing so that'll stay the whole time. That's doing this one vertical, driving the 2 front windows here and the snowflake, and it's also driving the data for the entire gutter. It's just one run and half the power for it, so the power splits at the top there, with a bit of power injection. That mini tree there is also run off that. I looped it off the back of the snowflake. So there's 2 mini trees there where I was talking about on the other side where the mini trees were, that they're basically exactly the same as this. I originally planned to have them across the driveway there, but wind came in, blew them across, and then my missus was having fun reversing the car out, so that's why I ended up bringing them back across here onto the house, and that was the original reason for having the whole separate controller on the far side, was to drive all of them. But I actually quite liked it. There was one here and there was one on the other side. It was lining up this white portion, the base of the columns, and the third one on the side there really nicely, and gave some pretty cool effects. And in here between the windows, the house, I quite like having the white walls. It gives some pretty cool effects. Mega tree, currently a 20 by 75 strand tree at 2-inch spacing, stands about 4 something meters tall, 150 node Bosco star. Tree is using 10 channels of the controller, star's using the 11th, so essentially 150 nodes per port, and they're wired 75 up, 75 down, and I'm injecting powers at both ends of it here. The controller itself, if I open it up, is a Smart Alec Lights Pixel Bone, and the grass has grown quite a fair bit. So that's it there. 2 350 watt power supplies, 2 lots of power fuses for each power supply. I'm going to close that up because it is actually starting to spit with a bit of rain. I don't want rain getting in. But again, it's FPP based controller, so it operates the same as the Hanson boards. I lock all my controllers down as well, as you've noticed. That's because the area I live in is not particularly well renowned for its crime rates, so I'd rather my controllers didn't get nicked. It's priciest bit a lot, if anything. Mini trees, differential receiver there, which is just doing this second, third and fourth tree. The other 2 are run off the front controller. So they're 166 nodes on the spirals. I really like these trees. I really don't like the fact that you can't see them from the street. I need to do something about this hedge. I want to put an automatic gate on and ditch the whole thing and bring it down, but there's the wife factor that I've got to consider. Back to the house. So 4 snowflakes on the pillars, same as last year. Wreath, same as last year. You can see the clips there where I had the Bethlehem star that moved. That's now up on the roof. Right, if I keep walking around. Where is he? There he is. Right at the peak of the roof there. So I really like it up there. I'm glad I moved it. Let me zoom in. There you go, there he is. The snowflakes, 4 big snowflakes on the roof. 3 of them are from last year. This one here is new. Up there last year was the singing light bulb, and the singing tree was down here. He was joined by 2 extra friends this year, so he's got 3. There are 3 singing light bulbs there. All of these props, basically, this, let me zoom back out, this, snowflake across at floor level is all controlled in the corner here. So in the corner here, there's the 2 mini trees that I already packed up. Another controller sitting here on the front porch, and a mass of cables, and a couple of other boxes which I'll go through. So this controller here is an F16 V4. As you can see, it's powered up as well. It's using the same Ethernet connection. There's my fancy connector. I'll talk about that in a sec. Power supply, usual sort of bog standard box. So it's got 12 ports wired out of them. That connector there I just used to steal the power for the fan. Worked quite nicely actually. So it's driving 2 differential outputs, one which is this guy here, which does the border around the house. This guy, this top here, that shines down on the walls, and he's powered from the 24 volts of the main thing because he pulls a fair bit of current. There's quite a fair few nodes. And then the second differential output runs to that box that was on the fence over there. This little box is a network switch. So he has got, as the purple cable is going up to the tune to sign, as a spare Ethernet port, spare PoE Ethernet port. This is my fancy PoE, and as you can see there's a fancy PoE going into the controller. And then there's one line coming from the shed which takes the 12 volts as well. So that switch is actually powered off the PoE coming from the shed, and then puts out 2 ports of PoE and 2 ports of regular Ethernet. It's an 8-port switch, so I still do have 3 ports spare inside if I decide to put another gland on it and get them out. This box here is my part of my C-bus control system. So in here is a relay, 240 volt relay. So it takes in, that's not Ethernet but C-bus protocol, runs over the same cabling, connects in the back there, and it switches the 4 outputs. So there's 4 weatherproof plugs here, and the 1 sockets, and 1 weatherproof plug as an input. So that all comes back in, that way I can turn all of the stuff on and off independently. My window frames, same as last year, it's just drilled conduit at 50mm centres. A lot of fun on the drill press, bit of pain actually. The roof line's very similar but at 75mm. So there's 4 of those and 4 windows. Again, as you can see, everything's got power injection, the XT60 connectors on it, ready to go. I've got the XT60 connectors on them like everything else, so I do need to inject if I can. I just accidentally stopped the video there. I need to not be fat fingers. My 3 singing globes. Somebody was asking me how I wire my props. So this particular one, X-connect in, and it splits to the first pixel, and this power injection line. So the power injection line comes in here, connects across here to pixel 67. The reason why I did it at 67 is because there is a big jump from there up to 68, which is somewhere here in the eye if I remember correctly. There it is. So it brings the power and data up there. The power also then runs across into, where's that going? To the end of the, yeah, just to the end of the prop. So basically it's connected at pixel 1, pixel 140, and pixel 68. So it's not quite the center of the prop. 70 something would be the center of the prop, but there was already a cut there, convenient jump. So I figured I'd use it. And all three bulbs are wired the same, like that. I've sort of improved the efficiency. As you can tell, the first one I wired on the black wiring is a little bit more messier. cables come across. This is just a power injection box. So these 3 singing faces, or sorry, the 4 if you count the tree, all come off this box here. Again, this guy's nothing special. You can see there's a couple of XT60s in use there. 5-volt power supply, fuse box, and it's got a little, there is a little current voltage meter on it as well. I don't think it was necessary. Like, you look at, if I put them on full white, all 4 faces on full white, I draw about 11.5, 12 amps, I think. But in use, I think I saw that meter jump at 2 amp. You know, with the dimming factor taken into account, and the what's the other thing? The fact that the singing faces don't have all of the pixels on at the same time. So I may have been able to drive them off the Falcon, but my initial math says I couldn't, so that's why I didn't. And I run it that way. So that is the house stuff. Oh, last thing, which I completely forgot. Tune 2 sign just sits up there. That's 3 P5 panels, and a little box that I made out of marine ply, painted it. They're indoor panels, so I've got a sheet of Perspex on the front. It keeps them protected, and I completely forgot about out the back, so I got a piece of my timber flooring from the kitchen, which was spare, not ripping up the flooring. And inside is a beagle bone with a octa-scroller on it, driving the 3 panels, 3 separate cables. And it all comes from Ethernet. Behind the scenes part 2, this is my little control area. So it's behind the shed wall. Mega trees on the other side of that wall there. First thing I'm going to do, open this up. Push that button to turn the light on. So in here, fluoro light on the roof that's controlled. It plugs into a PowerPoint, so normally sits in over here. So my entire show runs off the one PowerPoint. I think I peaked at 1200 watts off the PowerPoint with everything running, measured. So this here is my HE123D differential controller. So not much to him. Bunch of Ethernet cables and the Beagle. So you can see there, that's my PoE I was talking about, where I'm splitting the pairs off, and that goes into the Ethernet plug and then over to the input socket there. So it's 12 volt in. And he's just got a whole bunch of Cat 5s coming out of it. Main control box here inside. We have a network switch with a bunch of connections out, and as you can see, everything's turned on because all the controllers powered up. Main FPP, and I had to run this long USB cable, which I explained in my audio thing. For some reason I was getting some funny sound through this, so I've got a 3.5mm cable that comes in here, and that wasn't working properly. So another C-bus relay, 4 channels, of which there are these 3 output plugs here for doing the various bits and pieces, and the 4th channel goes to these 2 24-volt power supplies here that basically do most of the yard. It's a computer power supply, very little one, 120 watt or something. Let's turn that fan off because we don't need it on anymore. We're not doing a show. That switch just controls the fan at the bottom. So he's got the 12 volt is feeding the network switch and all the controllers, and the 5 volt was feeding the Pi, but I had a bit of issues with something this year, so I disconnected it, and the Pi is plugged in directly with a USB power supply at the moment, just to get it going. There's a what's called a CNI, computer network interface, which is for the C-bus system. Basically connects Ethernet into the C-bus for control. These guys here are the current transformers. There's 4 of those there, and another 4 inside this relay box. So that relay box is pretty much exactly the same as the one that's in that I showed you in the front. 1 in, 4 out. So he's controlling the transmitter. So that's the transmitter there, where I was showing the antennas just poking through the fence hole. Focus. The compressor and the amplifier. So the compressor and the transmitter run basically the whole show. Amplifier turns on and off based on the push to listen, controlling this. And that number 4 output is the light above my head. So I've got that so that if I have to come here in the middle of the night, I can turn it on before I start walking the gauntlet up there. I can see where I'm going. So this guy made life a bit interesting, this air conditioning in this little shed. Stupid place to put it. With a really hot day in Sydney, got up to 44 degrees or something on about, I think it was the 6th or something like that, of 9th of December. I was in major crisis calls with work because we had massive overheating issues there. But I ended up shutting the whole show off because, or rather shutting off all this equipment during the day because the CPU temperature of the Pi was reaching, high 70s, which is obviously not good. Because it was 50 degrees just in here alone. So as you can see, it's a much nicer day today. In there, if you can see it, there's the iota watts. That's the thing doing all my energy measurements. So there's 9 current transformers, 4 on these relays, 4 on these relays. And then the 5th one is doing the overall system, so I can see how much all the stuff in here is using that's not part of the relays. That's power supply for the camera out the front. Ubiquiti PoE. I won't go into how the audio system works, the compressor and all that sort of stuff, because I did do another video on it earlier, but I will link it below. This year I actually decided to plonk an Ethernet cable to go, and it just pops out the wall and plugs into the lounge room temporarily. Last year I was using a Wi-Fi link into the lounge room, which was a little bit unreliable. That was just for control, but uploading sequences and whatever was a bit slow over it. This year there's an access point in my garage which goes to that the DMX 224. It's got a little ESP32 in it, and I'll do a separate video on that, where I've basically put a RS422 transceiver in it, off on a GPIOs, and that's actually creating the DMX, and it's all coming from Wi-Fi. So that was one universe of E131 over Wi-Fi, otherwise everything else is cabled. I'm very much a cable person. So that's what I've got in the shed here that sort of runs the show. Part 3 will be climbing up on the roof and showing you the way I've mounted some of the things up there. Thanks everyone. Right, part 3 of my pack down / behind the scenes video. We're up on the roof, as you can see. So let's just go through some of the stuff I've got up here. There's the 4 snowflakes, large ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll talk about the mounting of those and the fact that that one on the end there has slipped in the last day. It's a bit of a concern. Got my solar panel matrix, roof lines, and then there's the Bethlehem star at the top there. So snowflakes here, they are literally just standing on their end. And then I've made this V-shaped frame held down with the sandbag. That basically keeps it vertical. I've tailored the sizes. You can see there's a bit of conduit being cut there and what have you, to handle that. So they're 96 nodes each, and all 4 of them run the same sort of setup. I'll just zoom in here. You can see that's there. Now that's slid down. You can sort of see the white mark just behind the bag of gravel there where it was sitting before. So we had some massive wind here the other day, and that appears to have fallen back, which is a bit of a problem. But yeah, that's basically in each of those green bags is 10 kilos of drainage gravel, and they seem to be holding out quite all right, other than that one there on the side. I'm not too concerned about that guy coming down, but this one here is the big one there, because if it falls on the wife's car, I'll be in a lot of trouble. Seed matrices on the solar panels. These worked quite well. I did 2 different designs for testing with. So the first one was this one here, which is made up of 100mm wire mesh over the whole panel. And initially I tried hot gluing the seeds down, but you can sort of see there it didn't quite work. So in the end I just cable tied them across. I didn't quite like this. If I come down at an angle, you can see it's quite lumpy because the wire just didn't quite hold its shape. So the design that I ended up finishing on, same concept, except it's only got a single square, that's it there, of the mesh, wire mesh. And the rest of it's just the seed pixels being pulled, and that just sits down and it curls over the panel. And underneath it, it's just wrapping around, and in some cases here, I just bent that up and around the panel, and that just held the tension in the wires. So they're 5-volt seeds, starting in the top left, 18 on the vertical and 11 verticals for 198 nodes. They were made from a couple of different sample packs, 100 lot sample packs. So I had to cut the last pixel off because they left no wire. She gave me 99, 2 sets of 99s, 198 was perfect. So there's a joint in the middle there, and then this is a power injection wire. So it's power injected in the center, and also comes around to the end there. So all 4 of those are set up in the same way. I used 3 different brands. So on the end panel here, you can see they're green wired seeds. They're a lot smaller. These 2 panels here are black wired seeds, and they've gone really yellow. They were white when I put them up, so that's really interesting. I had some really hot days here in Sydney. And then there were 2 green coloured ones, clear coloured ones, and they've also gone quite yellow. I'll be really curious to know when I get it down what the quality of the wire's like, because the actual wire itself has gone quite yellow as well in the UV. I preferred the look of the clear the best this year, so I'd be tempted to go that again. The black ones, the colour rendition on them wasn't quite there. I don't know if it was the yellowing of the pixels, but the whites were coming out very yellow by the end of it, whereas the whites on these, rest of them stayed quite good. The green wired pixels, they tended to flip a lot. So let's climb up on the other side here. Ooh, can walk around. Look at it. So you can see here, this strand, they weren't holding the right way. And then a lot of little twists in the wire just like that. And so a lot of the seeds were pointing down and just didn't give me the look that I was 100% after. I will refine it though. I quite liked the look of them. In the season, they added a lot of fill. So if I just stand back here without falling off the roof. The 6 panels there were covered in seeds. Same concept for all of the other things. 24 volts running up. Conversion boxes. So that one there is just doing power across from the gutter line. So the gutters basically is 2 halves, that half and then this half here. At the far end it's power the data and power comes in there. There's power injection here, both directions. And then this one here is power injected roughly in the same spot, but that's also got the little bit of the return on the side there as well. I've already done a video on this, but roof lines, pixels in conduit, and then these brackets, T-shaped brackets or hat-shaped brackets with a conduit clip on the top, holding them in. So I'll just unclick those. These pixels are already going quite brown. That's only year 2 in the sun, and the orange cable's lost a lot of its orange, but that's okay. Coming up the top here, there is the Bethlehem Star. Whoa, that was a big bug that was hitting my face. He's gone a bit wonky, and I don't know why. I'm about to have a look at that. So all of the roof lines come off this differential receiver here. So it's supplying power out to a few things, and power in and out, differential in and out. Yeah, it's just shifted like that. So this is a metal frame that I welded up with my crappy welding skills. So like a H, crossbar at the top, crossbar in the middle, and then it's got 2 legs, and that's held down there with the 3 bags, so 30 kilos of gravel. And this is a piece of conduit which I put a heap of cable ties on, and that's the orange heavy duty thick conduit. So that's all part of it, and then the actual star itself is just cable tied to that. So the reason why it was twisted is it just rotated on these cable ties. Obviously didn't do them tight enough when I put them up here. That worked really well. I really like this at the top this year, so I'm going to keep it for next year. The bracket looks like it's twisted or it's moved as well. Solar panels. Solar panels were done off a differential receiver which is under this panel here. Oh, 2 differential receivers, sorry. So this guy here is driving the 3 panels here, 1 output per panel. I think the fourth output's actually driving that center ridge line as well, off memory. And then there's another differential receiver sitting under this panel here, which is doing the other 3 solar panels. So there's 3 receivers on the roof. No, 4 receivers on the roof. There's a 4th one under the solar panel here somewhere. There it is. And that's doing the four snowflakes, 1 per output. So all of that cabling comes up, and there's 2 24-volt feeds. So it gives me 20 amps, because I run roughly 10 amps per orange cable, 24 volts, so 480 watts onto the roof to do that. So that all is what I showed in the first part of the video. It runs down into that white roofed shed there. So that's the roof line. That black cable is the power injection line that runs across to the other end of the gutters, so it's off the same power supply. And then the second one runs around to that box on the side. So that's my roof props. One thing I noticed, here it is. I lost a pixel here. You can see that from the ground was missing. There's somewhere here. These pixels came out of my ridge line. I'm going to hazard a guess. There's a few of them that come out. I got a lot of pigeons under my solar panels. Bastards over there. And I've got some netting to put up, which I'll do after this season around all of them. So it's going to limit me for putting things under the panels like I've done now. But that should at least stop those guys. I bet you it was a pigeon that stood on the conduit here and knocked it down. So that's part 3 sorted. That's my, actually, before I finish off part 3, let me come back over here and I'll show you my gutter hooks for my gutter lines here. This is a really basic design. So this is just chroma trim, cable tied to conduit, nothing special. And I've just got this metal strapping. It wraps around the conduit and then just sits on the gutter. Please don't judge me for the state of my gutters. I am well aware I need to clean them. So yeah, same brackets, basically used all over the place. And on the apex of the roof here, ever so slightly different, because I don't actually have gutters on the front, so it's just bent around the metal fascia. It works out all right. You can see there, I've connected the 2 together, and that passes data but no power, and the power comes in on the ends from 2 separate power sources for each side of the gutter line. So next year, changes will probably be singing elements at the top here. If I can make a better mounting bracket or something along those lines for it, or potentially even on the top of the roof. Predominantly because they weren't as visible. As you can see, looking towards the street, I've got a lot of trees and hedge and all that sort of stuff. Kind of makes it a little bit more fun. One final thing, let's come back across here. You get a really good view from up here. So the mega tree, that's the topper. So basically there's a steel, where's my finger here, the steel cable runs up, comes, take a focus, over the pulley and back down, and there's a D-shackle and a bolt onto the front of the plate there. Plate sits an angle, there is a cable to pull it backwards, but I was running it quite tense this year. And the star, there was a nice hole at the front of the 25 millimeter hole at the front of the thing there. I put a 25 mil piece of conduit on and 2 bell ends on each side, glued it in, and so that conduit is permanently there holding the star up, and then there's 2 metal strappings coming back which stop it from twisting and rotating, and that's how the star's held up. 3 bolts at the top of the post there for the guy wires, and all in all it keeps it quite steady. I do want to figure out how to balance the topper a little bit better though. As you can see, it's got a little bit of lean forward. It's not that big of a deal because it is kind of pointing down to the viewer area there, but it would be nice if it was a little bit more level, and that's all. So I'll play with that. So that is the end of my behind the scenes video. I really hope you liked it. If you've got any questions on anything specific that I've done, drop me a note below. Catch me on ACL Skymaster, or throw a comment on my website, mortonlights.com. Thanks everyone, and have a good one. Bye.